That is the moment when we stand up and greet one another in fashion. Eh. DJ, we are officially opening the ceremony or this gathering. The only request is the same as yesterday. I offended someone who had to come after gala dinner. That person only got liver after whatever that they had during gala dinner, and came to me and say, Rolf, you said we must put our phones on silence, and then you use iPhone 15 that is fully paid. And then some of us will use Samsung. Yes, we did put them on silent, but my phone is the old one. It doesn't go on silent. You were supposed to accommodate me. Then today I want to accommodate that special person and say that just take out the battery because of your... So colleagues, with that said, today there are chairs here that are put on the stage. And I'm going to make it very simple. They told me that is for VIPs. Then I was telling Litlono that there is only one VIP in this house. And that VIP is none other than Ropua Ramulundi. Because VIP, my definition of VIP is vendor in Pretoria. So you can clap hands for the VIP in the house. As I was speaking, Mashudu was looking at me. She's like, I'm from Polokwane, so I'm VIP in Polokwane, which is vendor in Polokwane. So we were supposed to recap. Can we settle down? I will have to move with my mic then. TUT, how's Betty? The good thing I know everyone by name, so I will be calling you by name. So we have to recap yesterday, and we are going to do that in 5 minutes. I will move with the mic because of yesterday I think it was one of the productive day. And today, surely, you are still going to go and say this conference must be extended because of 2 days is not enough. I mean, you can't give a speaker that is coming with a lot of information, you give them 45 minutes or 30 minutes. So I'm pleading to the president to say that maybe when we go further, let's do it 3 days. Even the whole week is fine, so that we can engage this. We want visas to leave home so that we can be away for a week. So let's go and deal with the first. We will start at the first one, which is asbestos. What did we learn through the asbestos? Let's just recap quickly. Is there anything that in your university is not done properly? Are you still having concerns of asbestos? I'm going to take only 2 hands so that we just deliberate on the issue of asbestos. Any hand on the floor? How's Jay? Let's settle down. Thank you. Asbestos, let's talk about it. Any hand? Any recommendation? What do we do further? We really need that monster. It will, So asbestos, no one want to give a bite?
Good morning, colleagues. What I took out from yesterday is that the types of asbestos, type 1, type 2, type 3. When we have type 1, we don't have to worry about it much. We can dispose it ourselves. But when we jump to type 2 and type 3, then we need professionals to do it. So we've made noise about it at our university, but now I need to go back and check what type of asbestos we have. Thanks.
There was a lady on the podium yesterday. She was paying attention. She's like, only if they can come to my environment. I was betting. Your bite on asbestos. TUT, Karankoa. What's happening with asbestos?
Morning, everyone. Something that frightens me the most, because I'm at technical service department, is that we can have diseases from asbestos. I heard about asbestosis, cancer, that we can have, but in a long run, because the fibers that are too small, they go a long way. Thank you.
I hope you're not yet sick, ne? So you are still fine, even though if you are dealing with that on the daily basis. I'm coming to you. You are live. You can just say, I want to greet someone if you don't want to talk about asbestos.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm Jennifer Lopodi, SMU. Asbestos, we do have it specifically for the construction design buildings that were old. And the challenges of asbestosis is so high. And there again, we need to make sure that we control it, and we prevent the people that are pregnant, so that it shouldn't infect the new ones that are coming. And definitely, I think, you know what, we need to go back to our university to do a walkabout assessment, so that we look at the old buildings, because of even the location houses that were having the roofs, that, what is it, the roofs that were having the old asbestos, so that it should, when it started to crack, that's where now the asbestos fibers are getting released, and we need to make sure that no, they are taking control.
A round of applause for them. Let's talk about the famous one. I will start with you. The famous one. injury on duty or sickness in duty in your university? Okay, just add quickly.
I just need to know whether everybody will be happy to put together SOPs from all universities. Maybe we can have a contribution of a SOP for asbestosis and a working document with regards to category A, category B, and category C, so that we have guidelines that guide us through the process. So it'll make things much easier for everybody to quantify, number one. Number two, to have a working document or working documents to what we're going to be doing.
A round of applause for her. This table, I look at you. Injury on duty in your university, is it done as per the presentation yesterday? Where do we improve?
Morning, everyone. Yes, with us at UKZN, in terms of injuries on duty, we try as much as we can to follow the way that we should be doing. In terms of, I will think the main issue will be to say we are not expected to be the judges when it comes to the effect or to the issue of determining whether the injury itself is an IOD or not. We let the compensation commissioner decide, for there will be instances where people will feel that their accidents or whatever injury suffered is supposed to be regarded as an IOD. So we cannot disadvantage them into saying this won't be accepted. We report it as accordingly and let the compensation commissioner makes a call. Thank you.
A round of applause for her. We are concluding. I have to go to Cape Town to conclude this. IOD in Cape Town.
Are you talking about me? Sorry, what was the question?
We are checking to say there was a presentation on IOD yesterday. Does the presentation cover how you are handling it, or is there something that we have to learn from Cape Town?
Yeah, I think something that wasn't emphasized, elaborated on is having a flow process, because a policy on its own is not necessarily sustainable. But if you have a flow process, that's for asbestos and COIDA, it would be an advantage because it's easily, you can disseminate it easily and we can share it easily so people understand the various roles. So it's about having a flow process for all your procedures.
Thank you so much. Can we... This flight is moving quicker. It's from Durban, Cape Town. Now I'm in UP.
Yes, I have an IOD today, after last night. Yes, what I actually just like to suggest is, Michael actually mentioned something of great importance. Without process flows, you can actually not have a proper or run a proper system with regards to the IOD. And I think Jenny also mentioned something. I think what we need to do is actually establish some sort of a database. So whoever actually have documents with regards to whatever we've covered in this conference, we actually put it up on the website, and I think benchmarking can start from there, because I mean, if it's an open document, we can start benchmarking from each other. Not that I say that, like my friends at VUT always go to Cape Town for some, they call it benchmarking, which is a good thing if you have a nice couple of days off work and you benchmark, and then yeah. But I think if that documents are actually loaded on our website, and we'll talk with marketing, Um, and then you can actually work from there and you have something concrete, because most of your documents that you these days you actually get, it's mostly overseas universities, and sometimes their type of application do not actually work into how we are actually running things here in South Africa as well. So we can actually start making progress with regards to compiling these policies. And then remember, policies go with process flows. Right, so if you have a process flow, and then you can actually work much more concrete on your policy development for OHS.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for him. Let's go to the business of the day. But before we go to the business of the day, I'm trying to look at someone who closed the dance floor last night when we started to play the song Summer 2000. Wow. Wow. But I just left you to shine, because of if I had to dance, I was going to take a trophy. So we'll have that challenge at the end. We are prepared. The president also danced, but you can tell that is a dance from Venda. Without any further ado, colleagues, we are going to, we are behind with 7 minutes. And it means I chowed the time for the first speaker with 7 minutes. But I want to encourage, I'm worried about a lot of movements. I understand that nature can call. The bathrooms are that side. When nature calls you, just go that side, don't go that side. Otherwise, you'll be lost. We are on the 4th floor here, so that if you find yourself on the lifts, because of some of us in Harankua, we don't even own one. So we made it to be here. So the next speaker, none other than, we are from together, we work together. I think we have almost 25 years together working in Tshwane University of Technology. He's on the principle, he's very good. His presentation will move you. Let's continue to take notes. And after that, the recommendation is to say that we are here to learn from one another. I hate it when we come to conference and we go back, we don't even implement anything. We need to implement and make sure that what we are learning is practiced across the universities. If we have conference like this, the other university must not do better than any because of we are learning. Can you give me a round of applause? I make a point for the first time. Then we are also going to put our hands together for Mr. Ruud van der Waal, that is coming to do the presentation on environmental management. Can we welcome him on the stage? I'm not going to give you time, but if the time overlap, it's you, it's not me.
Thank you, Program Director. Just going to start up here again. This is now my luck. Yesterday, everything went well with the technology.
As they are connecting, remember we are live on YouTube. How you see yourself on the screen, that's how you are appearing in the public. I mean, the whole South Africa, they are seeing you like that.
Is that not work?
Yeah, it says it's working. She said it's working.
Okay.
On the other side? Yes, like that. Nothing.
Let's try again.
Nothing. So how it's connected.
Hmm?
I think it's here. Nothing. Okay, let's do this.
Must I go out? And,
Do you have the presentation on USB? You can put it here.
okay, let me go to USB.
I'll fix it later. He's showing. He's showing.
Is yours working?
On
Let
the
me
side
just
here.
let me just download it.
Showing.
Will it show little things on your screen?
Yeah. This one is showing. It's called what? This one?
Hmm?
This one.
No, no. See induction. No, no. Let's go up. So it's not offloaded. Go down.
This is what's in there.
It's not download.
Yeah, you remove that one. The first one.
This one.
Yeah. Environmental management. Okay.
Click it down.
No, this laptop when I plug the HDMI, it's not showing. But when I plug on mine, it's showing. Unless we have got a different laptop as well. We can use.
We used this one yesterday. It was no issue.
Oh, no, the thing is that I changed the system how it's connected.
Mm. Let's see if it's there.
Were you playing music with this one in the morning?
No, I was playing with mine.
Okay, it's there.
It's there. Environmental, right?
Mm. So it's not there.
It's loading.
Oh, is it loading?
The only delay is system for now. Then for the sound, we didn't pay the DJ today. So he decided to say that you danced enough last night. He is not here. Unless if we start the idol competition, I see Dr. Sfulushash is ready to start. Then after that, we'll have a
Start uploading.
competition, Mr. and Miss.
It's almost finished.
Yeah. And the most dressed person, I won't announce the winners now.
Then if it doesn't work, we'll work. Do it the old way. The way
Maybe the media team also, when you get it right, also show the Wi-Fi pins for those who want to connect.
the Wi-Fi pin.
Mm.
You're saying that we must show the Wi-Fi pin. It's fine. Let's do it the other way. Let's connect your computer here, then make projects. Therefore, people won't see anything.
Huh?
I'm saying let's connect you straight to the project, and then I'll fix it later on.
But will they see the screen?
Yes, they will see only the presentation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Remove that laptop of yours.
What?
That one. That one.
I can use that one.
Yeah, use that one. I'm coming with the cable now.
Do you need my sticky?
No, it's fine. It's still here.
Maybe in the meantime, as they are connecting, I just want to have the feeling for the team. I'm going to start here. How was last night? Over to you. How was last night?
No, last night was okay.
That dance,
What about it?
are you going to give us today again?
No, unfortunately.
Mr. Root, are we winning? Or not yet? From all these presenters, what did you grab?
I grabbed everything, most of all regarding the IODs.
You love IODs, ne? I just want to go to Stellenbosch. Your input on Shecasa for future conference.
I think it is a very good opportunity to meet some people. I did meet some new colleagues of universities, and we are sharing some information. Going forward, I think we must just build on what we did, and maybe, as you mentioned, that there are maybe a hosting place like SharePoint where we can share and documents, procedures, and ideas with other universities that struggle to get their procedures in place.
So,
Mhm.
the marketing officer, can we share the information through the
Yeah,
website?
something, yeah, because you connected me
Over
now
to you.
to-
Any
should work
recommendation
now.
to Shecasa for future events?
For me, now, for Shecasa, I'm so happy. For now I'm learning
Then
some
I
lot
tell
of things. And
doesn't want to
yes, the
connect.
next time I just attended this
But here
conference.
it should connect
Now I
because it's on
understand
now.
everything. We're talking about all the presenters. And then I just want to learn more. And then again, I think I can come back again next day, 2026, to attend that Shecasa. I'm so glad, I'm so happy for everything.
Congratulations message to the new elected president.
See, because it means now it's connected, but it should show the screen is the problem.
Oh, the
Do?
female one. Oh, we would like to say all the best and we wish you a great term. And don't be hard on us and don't be absent from us. We love you. Thank you very much.
Earlier this year, I think it's in Spain, where they had to evacuate some tourists. It's too hot. More and more you'll see on video, or when you see these programs, you'll find people taking baths in the fountains in cities because they're not used to that heat. My son is in the UK, United Kingdom, and he's been there for a year now. The other day I video called him, and he was sitting outside and he was sweating. And I asked him what's going on. He said, "Dad, you won't imagine, it's hot." And in England, the houses are built to be hotter than normal. So they're isolated, so insulated that you can get into the house and it's a nice temperature in winter time because it gets so cold. He says, "I've got nowhere to hide. I go into the house, it's an oven. I go outside, it's hot." So you can imagine those British people, they're not used to the heat that we are used to here in South Africa. So that is another thing. Another evidence is the melting glaciers and ice sheets. Amidst the frozen landscapes that have been part of Earth's geography for millennia, a transformation is underway as ice sheets and glaciers succumb to climate change. The delicate dance of freezing and melting of these ice formations, once viewed as frozen in time, is yielding to the planet's rising temperatures. From the remote corners of Antarctica to the towering ranges of the Himalayas, the alarming spectacle of accelerating ice loss casts a stark shadow over ecosystems, coastlines, and the equilibrium of our global environment. So obviously, this is going to lead to rises in the water levels as well, having an effect on coastal towns. Other evidence that we see also here in South Africa, a lot of wildfires because of the excessive heat. Droughts, we experience droughts. Northern Cape, you can go and watch the news. Last few years, those farmers are struggling. Their livestock dying because they don't have water, they don't have grazing. And then also floods. We've seen some of the devastating floods that they show on the news, where houses look like this picture to the right. That house is totally, almost, the house is under the water. So those are examples. We are not thumb-sucking. We see the evidence. And then we can ask ourselves the risks. Are we in trouble? Heat waves and health impacts. We experience that. Coastal flooding and loss of land. Threats to food security and water supply. One recent example, 2017, 2018. I was on holiday in Cape Town, and the water was so scarce we had to share the water, shower, let your water fall into a bucket. So it was not very nice, and it probably one of the warmest times I ever had when I was on holiday at the coast. So it has an effect on our water supply. It also has an effect on our biodiversity and species extinction. Okay, we talked about the polar bear just now, the video you saw. And then lastly, economic costs of disasters. So that's the impact that it has. In South Africa, we experience longer droughts affecting farming, livestock and crops. You see these pictures more and more. Water restrictions in various areas and towns, rising sea levels threatening coastal towns, and then energy reliance on coal, higher emissions. Now you would know, in South Africa, how high a percentage of production for electricity is from coal plants? Who can tell me? Our electricity. How much does coal plants, Eskom, contribute in percentage? So 81% of the energy that we use are through coal. They use coal plants, those power stations, 81%. And some time ago, I think it was 2022, the government, they sent out a diagram where they wanted to, their plans, what they want to achieve by 2030. Now, we sit with 4 years left, and a lot of those things have not been reached yet. The only one that you can see where there was an impact is on solar power, renewable energy. There you can see there is an impact. Because so many people, they place now these solar panels at their homes for electricity as a result of the blackouts we had. Okay. So we should ask ourselves, is there hope? Yes, we are in trouble, we know that. But if action is delayed, we're going to remain in trouble. We can choose which route we're going to take, what path you're going to take. And it's not too late. We can still act. So there are some things that we can do, and not big companies. It starts with us as individuals. There's a lot that we can do to turn around this ship. So what do I talk about when I say there's a lot that we can do? We can manage our energy, we can manage our waste, we can manage our water, and we can plant more trees and protect ecosystems. So that is the responsibility from each and every one of us to play that role. So if you look at energy management, energy, the types of energy, there are two main types of energy: non-renewable energy, that's the oil, coal that we extract from the earth, nuclear, and natural gases. And then on the right hand, we have renewable energy. And that's the way that we should go to try and save our environment, our planet. So renewable energy, wind, solar, biomass, water, and geothermal. So renewable sources of energy, biomass, so those natural products that you use to heat up, use it for energy, solar power, hydropower. Unfortunately, we don't have enough dams, big dams, that we can rely on for energy. So that is probably the best way that you can generate energy without not impacting on the environment. But I mean, we don't have a lot of dams in South Africa to do that. And then wind power is something that you see more and more, especially if you go down to the windy areas, Cape Town, Northern Cape, those areas. Now we look at ourselves, our household energy use. Now if you look at that diagram, which one is the highest contributor to our energy use? Who can tell me? You see it on the diagram. Heating water. Heating water contributes 47% of the energy we use at home. All right. Next to that, the 9%, you'll find there it's refrigeration, keeping things cold. Then we also have cooking, 14%, lighting, 7%. So here is our contribution towards the energy problem. If we can have an impact on that heating of water, change our ways of doing things better, we can save energy in the kitchen. You can put in a gas stove, replace the electric stove with a gas stove. You can save energy in the laundry, wash with the hand instead of the washing machine. General activities with geysers, switching off geysers, protecting geysers with a geyser blanket to keep it hot for a long time. Insulation, lighting, get our children to know when they leave the room, they switch off the light. That's the same at our businesses. I mean, our office block that we sit in, if you leave, all the lights are on. There's no need for that. We are wasting energy. And then appliances that we use. So we can play a big role in just looking at how we use energy at home. How many of you, when you want to wash the dishes, you open the hot tap? Do you do that? And then you leave it until it gets hot enough, and then you put the plug in the basin. You've wasted about 5 liters of water. You've started your geyser, and you've used electricity. A lot of us sometimes we open that tap to wash our hands because we want the water to become hot. And in that, doing that, you've wasted 5 liters of water. And you've wasted energy because your geyser, the water goes out, New water comes in, it has to reheat. Okay. Now what we do at home, we've got a 5-liter bottle. So when we want to prepare to wash the dishes at home, we take that 5-liter bottle, we open the hot tap, fill up that 5-liter bottle, put it aside. And then the water is hot. Then we use it in the sink. Next time we use that water, we take it to the garden, we water gardens, or we use it in the kettle, for coffee, whatever. But we've not wasted that water. That's the daily activity that me and my wife, we do. And it's a simple thing, small thing. But if each and every household does that, imagine how much energy we will save. If you look at waste management, that's another contributor. I'm going to start off by showing you this video just to give you the extent of our problem.
South Africa is on the verge of an environmental disaster. In fact, one expert is warning that this is not discussed. South Africa is on the verge of an environmental disaster. In fact, one expert is warning that this is not discussed nearly enough. The country's estimated 1,000 landfills are almost at full capacity, and soon there won't be space to dispose of waste. Newsroom Africa's Ahmed Kaji reports on the impact, especially in the country's economic hub.
So, there is total disregard for human life. Nobody hears our voices. Our voices are dead to this to this government. And it's sad because we are South African citizens, but we're not being protected.
For more than 20 years, Nicole Myberg has been living a short distance from the Grootkopies landfill that has grown to a point of no return. She and other residents of Eldorado Park have taken their fight far and wide, from local government offices to the Police and Human Rights Commission.
This thing should have been closed down. We want to know, why is it not being closed down? What is the reason that this landfill is not being closed down? Why are we left to suffer like that?
South Africa is sitting on a ticking time bomb. According to a 2018 State of Waste report commissioned by the National Department of Environmental Affairs, landfills make up the vast majority of waste management facilities. That's where an estimated 98 million tons of waste is deposited every year. Waste management expert Leon Grobbelaar knows all too well about this crisis. We meet him at another landfill whose location we can't disclose for safety reasons.
I doubt it whether those facilities will ever be rehabilitated. It will be left and it will be allowed to overgrown and it will be there forever. And there's a lot of them around in Gauteng.
With all of the waste filling our spaces, there are repeated warnings that prolonged exposure to hazardous waste could be detrimental to the health of those living near these landfills. The risks don't end there.
It's a known fact that the Department of Water Affairs are preaching to say that by the year 2030 there will be no clean drinking water in our rivers. That's a fact, so they're all trying to prevent that from happening. So, and facilities like this, not being covered, waste open, high runoff contamination, all of this is going into our rivers.
Grobbelaar also says that 80% of South Africa's landfills do not have adequate infrastructure to protect groundwater from pollution. Johannesburg MMC for Environment and Infrastructure, Michael Sun, is well aware of these problems.
Since taking office, I've ensured and instructed Pick It Up to eliminate those kind of nuisance going into the nearby formal settlement. And very importantly, we employed measures by spraying chemicals to reduce the smell and also the other pollutants on the landfill site.
South Africans are also not big recyclers, and the provision of facilities to support these efforts is limited.
Unless we provide these facilities, there will be nowhere to go, and we'll be drowning in our own waste very, very, very shortly, and that I can assure you.
Grobbelaar believes the government has made strides, especially in legislation to manage the treatment of waste, but compliant and proper implementation of policy is needed.
Grobbelaar says the bigger the metro, the more pollution created. Meanwhile, the city of Johannesburg says it will continue to attempt rehabilitation for landfills such as this one. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Ahmed Kaji in Johannesburg.
Actually contribute to that. South African dispose
of South Africa
of enough
is
waste
on the verge
to fill
of an environmental
football
disaster.
field 10 meters deep every day. Each of our 60 million people, it's more 62, 63 now, produces approximately 2.5 kilograms of waste per day. Okay, and there are ways and means that we can reduce our waste at home. There are ways that we can manage our waste properly at home. What do you do to make sure that you assist or you play a role in this? These informal, what we call scavengers, that every Thursday morning with their trolleys in our area, they wake you up at about 3, 4 o'clock to be ready to collect our garbage. They play the biggest role in waste management, recycling, than anyone else. So they're contributing. So what we do to assist them? What we do at our home, me and my wife, we separate our waste. We separate our waste, dry waste from the wet waste, the things that they can use, the things that can be recycled, we put it in a bag. So when I put out my garbage, I have the garbage can that he doesn't have to dig into because I have separated everything already for him. And if you separate or if you leave that waste with the wet waste, they can't use that waste anymore. They can't use that car box if it got wet by your waste. So separate it. Get into that habit of doing that. It will go a long way in us solving and turning around the ship. So what can we do? The 5 R's of waste management. Reduce. Wherever possible, reducing waste is the preferable option. Reuse. If waste is produced, every effort should be made to reuse it if it's practicable. Recycle. Helps to conserve resources and reduce waste. Repair. Can the item be fixed instead of being thrown away? All of us, we have children, we have grandchildren, we buy them all these nice toys. Now they play with it once and the wheel of the truck that we bought broke, and now you discard of that. It's waste. Fix it. Get a new wheel. Fix that truck. Let him play with that again. That is a simple way that you can also assist. Not throwing away things that can still be used. Recover. It may be possible to recover materials of energy from waste which cannot be reduced, reused, or recycled. Here are some examples where people took waste and made something better of it. You see, that is a PPC cement. It's a cement bag. Now, cement bags are tough. And that person made bags of that cement bags. You can use it for conferences. We can use the waste that we have. These banners, we can take them and we can make our bags for next year from these banners. There's a lot of them. Use that material. That's what people do as well. Okay, so there are ways. Look at this. We call this upscaling, the right bottom, or up recycling, up reusing. So you use it now, you make it better than what it was. It was just a bottle. Now it's a nice vase that you can store things in. In the nursery school, there's a way that the teacher can place all the pens and stuff that they use. So there are ways and means. We must just be committed. If you look at water management, now I'm going to give someone something if they give me the right answer. The first person that can tell me what percentage of water in the world do we have as water that we can drink? How much water is available for human consumption in the world? Put up your hands. Who's got the answer? Put up your hand. Anyone, don't be afraid. Yes. 50%. I wish. Another guess. How much? Less than 1%. of the water in the world is for human consumption. If you look at this, the study they did to check, where is all the water? Salt water dominates Earth's supply. 97.5% of the water is in oceans and seas. That's where our water is. 2.5 is fresh water. Of that 2.5 fresh water, 70% of it is frozen in polar ice caps, so those icebergs. 30% lies underground. We all know there's a lot of rivers underground. Where we stand deep down, there are rivers flowing. Look at the mining operations. If they do mining operations, they have to take out that water. Otherwise, they drown down there. So underground, 30%. But in most cases, they're too expensive to tap into that. Less than 1% of the world's fresh water is available for human consumption. So that tells us we must work with it in a very, very responsible manner. And if we talk about the water that we use, we talk about water quantity, how much water is available, and we also talk about water quality, how clean the water is. Now, if you look at our statistics, we see that, but I'm going to ask this question. I want to give another bottle. Water uses in South Africa, which, or let me say, what uses most of our water in South Africa? Where does most of our water go to? Agriculture. Okay, you've got one right. How high percentage? Okay, 60%? You almost all said mining. Okay, I think it's enough to give you a bottle. You're almost there. And the fact that you said agriculture will get you there. So if you look at water quantity and sustainability, you'll see here we are ranked the 30th driest country in the world, South Africa. Water is distributed unevenly from east to west. We know that East Coast, Natal, those areas, they get a lot of rain. West Coast, Cape, doesn't get a lot of rain. So it's from east to west, you will see our water resources becomes drier. Average rainfall, and this is very alarming, average rainfall of 464 millimeters. It's half of what the world average is. So it's far below international average of 857 millimeters. So we are a dry country, and we have to look after our water resources. We just saw in that video what that river looks like. I travel to work, and I cross the Apis River. And if I cross that Apis River, it will take me about an hour to recover, to see what you see there. That's water that we could use. That's totally wasted. If you just sniff it, you might get some sort of disease. Okay, so we must look at it. So water quality, if you are a water scarce country, then you need to have proper water quality. Look at those plants where the water is then cleaned for reuse. But the problem is safe drinking water has become incredibly scarce, and there has been a significant increase in the number of deaths related to contaminated water. Hammanskraal, you remember that 2-3 years ago, people died? That's still not fixed. Still not fixed. That plant. Both of these need to be understood and managed, as they each have an effect on the environment and sustainability. What do you do to save water? Tell me, what do you do to save water? Anyone? Yes. Shower instead of taking a bath. You use less water. Only if you're an adult. If you've got children this size, they stand under the shower for an hour. Then it is piece of it. But if you take your shower, you can wash properly, you would have used much less water than taking a bath. What else? Drink beer. Yes. That's a good one. And I'm going to support your argument. You're going to see just now. Yes. Yeah, use a bucket to wash your car instead of a hose pipe. Yes. What? Fix leaks, dripping taps. Do you know how much water is wasted? How much water do we waste a day from a dripping tap? How much water? More than 10 liters. 60 liters. If you take a tap that drips, 1 drip per second, you waste 60 liters. You can fill up 60 liters per day. 11,000 liters of water that can be lost as a result of that. And most of the thing we want to get a plumber to come and fix that. There's an O-ring in your tap. You open it, you just replace most of the times that O-ring, and you fix the leak. Okay. Wastewater for your lawn. What we have at home, I bought one of those garbage big black cans. I made a hole at the bottom. I put in a tap there. I open it up. It stands right next to my washing machine. And that outlet is in that. So all the water from the washing machine taps in there. I apply a hose pipe, I open it, and then I can water the garden. Okay. Yes. Using rainwater. Reclaiming water, rainwater. Okay. Reuse grey water, that's what we say. Watering when it's cool. You find people 12 o'clock in the day, very hot, and they're watering the garden. A lot of that water evaporates. Water in the evenings or in the mornings.
You spoke about planting trees. One thing that we must be careful of is planting right trees.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that. It's true. Yes. Yeah, Eric. That's true. We need to educate our kids. In Sweden, do you know that Sweden, they recover their waste? So they reuse waste 99% of that. They buy waste from other countries because they use it for energy. They teach their children from before school level to reuse, recycling, all of that. Yeah. So there are ways that we can apply. Okay. So 70% of the water in South Africa is for agricultural purposes. 22%, that's what industry use. And the household uses 8% of the water in the country. So your water footprint, and this is interesting, and I'm going to now support that beer drinking of yours. Your water footprint means your indirect use. How much water was used to make the things we use, such as the food, the drink we consume, the clothes we wear, the amount of electricity we use, etc., etc. So, for 1 kilogram of beef on your plate, how much water was used to give you that piece of meat? Can I give you out another bottle, President? For the correct answer, can I give another bottle for the correct answer? How much water was used to eventually have your 1 kilogram of steak on the plate? Anyone? I'll take an answer within 5,000. How much? 5 liters. Yes. How much? 1 liter. How much? 60. $15,500 liters used for 1 kilogram of beef. Remember now, it's all the water. Remember now, before you get confused, it's all the water that has been used from when that was before slaughtering, growing up, all of that. But remember, it's for 1 kilogram. If it is the whole ox, you multiply. So you see how much water is used for the things we use. Another example, chocolate. How much water was used for 1 slab of chocolate? The what? The what? No, we would faint. How much water used for chocolate? I think my time is almost running out. 17,000. 2,400 liters for a slab of chocolate. And here's the important one about beer. Important thing about beer. Okay. Orange juice. How much water was used? 170 liters per glass of orange juice. 170 liters of water per glass of orange juice. But beer, 75 liters. You save more than half. So drink beer and you will save water. Huh? Yeah, but you were not on the right. Pollution.
Can feed 1 billion people a healthy meal every day forever. But now they are being killed by throwaway plastics. The equivalent of 1 garbage truck of plastic is dumped in the sea every minute. 17.6 billion pounds every year. Plastic is everywhere in our ocean, floating on the surface, mixing in the salt water, and sitting on the ocean bottom, miles and miles deep. And once in the ocean, it never goes away. Over hundreds of years, it breaks down into small pieces. But those pieces, even the tiny ones called microplastics, are still plastic. Sea turtles are choking on it. Scientists say that over 60% of whale and dolphin species are affected by it. Zooplankton, the base of the ocean food chain, eat it. And so do we. It's in the water we drink. It's in our food. Microplastics have been found in our salt, our honey, and our beer. And sometimes even in the air we breathe. Companies are choosing to make something that will be used just once, from a material that lasts forever. If you don't like what throwaway plastics are already doing to our world, brace yourself. We face a tsunami of throwaway plastic in our and the ocean's future. 4 times more plastic will be produced between now and the middle of the century than has been produced in all of history. 4 times more. What can we do? Recycling? Of all the plastic ever generated as of 2015, only 9% was recycled. Even when it is recycled, plastic degrades. Your plastic soda bottle maybe becomes a shampoo bottle, then a floor mat. Even in the best case, it doesn't recycle, it downcycles. And then it becomes pollution that ruins our beaches and chokes sea animals forever. We should not be forced to pollute the ocean every time we eat, drink, or go shopping. We need to be given a choice. a plastic-free choice. This is not hard to imagine. Indeed, some responsible companies are already leading the way. There are throwaway plastic-free aisles in supermarkets. Beverage companies already offer plastic-free soda and salsa water. Restaurants offer plastic-free service. There are plastic-free rooms in hotels. An airline is now offering a plastic-free flight. And Oceania and our allies are winning plastic-free victories. Following campaigning by Oceania, Peru passed a law that keeps plastic out of national parks and beaches. Belize is getting rid of styrofoam. And the European Union has mandated reductions for throwaway plastic throughout its 28 member countries. But with your help, we can do more. Together, we can create a movement to reduce throwaway plastic. We can make sure we're all given real plastic-free choices. We can help our cities, towns, schools, and workplaces.
Pollution, and then climate change. So those are all the things that impact, the pollution that impacts on our environment. Now, what can we do? How can we manage this pollution? There are 3 ways to manage pollution. Change human activity. Secondly, monitor and reduce the quantity of pollutant produced at the source. And then thirdly, clean up the pollutant and restore the environment after pollution has occurred. That is our legal and moral obligation to do. Another thing, restoring polluted ecosystems. One of the colleagues mentioned about the right plants. Plant succulents. They use less water, and they are beautiful ones. They also provide more oxygen. You see they remove harmful substances. Plant indigenous plants, not from outside that waste all our water. This black wattle, it takes a lot of water. It's a foreign species from Australia. Eradicate invasive species. Rewilding. Rewilding means we just move animals to areas that is not being overpopulated. And then, very important, and this is something you can do if you go back home, go past someone's garden or wherever, you'll find a speckboom plant. Plant that, you can break off one piece, put it in the ground, it starts growing. You'll be surprised, or not surprised to see, this plant produces much more oxygen than any other plant. So we need that oxygen as well. So you're also then recovering the air that we breathe. So go, and you can also go and look up about the speckboom plant. If you go to the nursery again, buy yourself a speckboom plant. Okay. So those are ways that you can assist. And I'm almost finished, Program Director. In conclusion, your footprint. What do you leave behind? Do you leave behind a footprint like this? Or do you leave behind a footprint like that? It's your choice. But your choice, we will see how you apply the ABC. And what is the ABC? The ABC in safety. Attitude. Change your behavior. And your behavior shows your commitment. We have a biblical responsibility as well for those of us that are Christians. In the Bible it says we need to look after the land. We have to reign over the land, but the reign doesn't mean we can destroy it. We must sustain it for the benefit of our children and our grandchildren. And let's start now. Thank you.
So much, Mr. van der Waal. I'm going to call on podium to hand the token of appreciation from Shecasa, Jennifer Lehodi. Can we give her a round of applause? I'm not opening any questions. We can do more. My sincere apology not to take questions. I'm trying to cover people who are traveling. We are going to call the next speaker on the podium for the day. That is none other than Nontombenhle Mutikitiki from CPUT. Am I right? Can we give a round of applause? And then the knowledge from Mr. Root it's a lot. I enjoy the videos. I think I must come and get how to do the presentation. I want to be a speaker next time. Over to you.
Good morning, colleagues. I don't like presenting on the second day because I know that we all have headaches. But nonetheless, we just need to continue. Colleagues, I'm going to take you through our study that we did that speaks about assessing the efficiency of occupational health and safety management system at a South African university. So this study hasn't been done anywhere else in South Africa, so we were the first group that did the study. Okay, I'm going to run through it very fast because we are running out of time, but I'm not stopping you from asking questions as we go along. So if we look at the global trend, that one is slow, okay. If we look at the global trend on occupational incidents, the International Labour Organization estimates that, now in our study, it might have changed now, estimated that there has been an increase in occupational injuries since 2010. And in 2017 alone, there has been over 2 million fatalities and 374 million non-fatality injuries worldwide. And I want to believe that it has gone up because we've seen the South African stats has gone up since the study. In the United States in 2020, there's been approximately just over 2 million workplace injuries and illnesses that were reported and recorded. There might be some that were not reported. And that brought sort of a financial burden, which is estimated at 164 billion in a single year. So you can see that workplace incidents are costing companies, government, a lot of money. In African countries, such as the countries that are listed there, there has been prevalence of occupational injuries. It remains high, even though they didn't tell us how high, but it says it remains high, ranging from 9.7% to 97.5%, depending, of course, on the region and the type of industry. In South Africa, now, at home, the estimation is at 198,000 workplace injuries reported annually, those that were reported. And when it comes to occupational diseases, we're sitting at 22,000 occupational diseases every year. The stats has gone up, as I've mentioned. The latest that I've seen, it was standing at about 300,000 workplace injuries reported every year. Yeah? So to address these challenges, organizations or numerous organizations have implemented occupational health and safety programs. with the aim to reduce and eliminate these incidents. And these programs, they are integrated into occupational health and safety management system. And when you look at the definition of occupational health and safety management system, is a structured, interconnected system for planning, implementing, monitoring, and improving. So in other words, we cannot just plan and implement and monitor and just stay like that. It is a continuous improvement. Let's look at the development of the occupational health and safety management system, because it didn't just come. The history of it is that due to rising workplace incidents or injuries and diseases, the system was created. Before the system, safety was a reactive rather than proactive. Even though it still happens like that, we still somewhere, somehow, we are reactive, we're not proactive, but the system is there to assist us to be proactive. The system is very easy. It has introduced PDCA, I'll get to it later, cycle, that is also known as the Deming wheel. It's a structured, proactive, and it ensures continual improvement, as I've mentioned. It is aligned with national laws and international standards to ensure compliance. What is important, colleagues, is compliance. And once you have the system in place, it ensures safe working place. With safe workplaces, you are guaranteed high productivity, you are guaranteed morale and organizational reputation. So now, this evolution of the standards, it started with OHS. It didn't start with that, but our study starts with OHS 18001, which was established in 1999. This was a certifiable specification optimized for auditing purposes or giving auditable requirements. Then in 2001, there was a guideline that was developed by the International Labour Organizations, which provides guidelines for organizations to say how to comply. Before you go for auditing, you need to know what is it that you need to comply with. And OHS 18001 was replaced by ISO 45001, which I believe most of us are aware of it. It was developed in 2018, but in 2021, everyone that was certified in terms of OHS 18001 had to move to ISO 45001. I can give the whole day lecture on these ISOs, but due to time, I can't. So now, South African context. The certification is voluntary, except in some sectors, like your iron and steel. There is about 14 cents accredited bodies provided, attached to the standard, and we normally use, let me not say we normally use, but organizations use those 14 standards to ensure that they comply. Okay. Where am I now? Sorry, colleagues. Why is my slide not moving? Okay. So the occupational health and safety management system follows a structured process, as I've mentioned, that includes planning, implementation, measurement, and monitoring to ensure an ongoing workplace safety. This has been proven by lots of studies or lots of authors, and it highlights that the OHSMS are not only integral to managing and controlling risks, but they ensure that the well-being of staff and students and the entire workforce is protected. And also it plays a crucial role in helping organizations to comply, as I've mentioned. So what is the rationale? Why occupational health and safety management systems in universities? We know that the standard or the system has been widely applied in industries. Universities have not adopted the system as yet. This is according to one of the fundis in occupational health and safety. Obviously, the standard has benefits. One of which is that it reduces incidents, it lowers costs, as I've mentioned that accidents and incidents at work, they cost organizations a lot of money. So once you have the standard, it lowers the cost. It improves productivity and efficiency. In higher education risks, higher education sometimes is taken as there are no risks. There are risks. It's not a smooth, sweet environment, ice cream factory. It's a real work environment, like industries. We've got unsafe practices which impact on quality of education. Campuses also require strong accident management or incident management because of large populations. I think universities or institutions of higher learning have got most population. I mean, here where we're standing at UNISA, they're sitting at around 300,000 students, I think. 78,000. Oh, 378, so there's high population. We've got workshops and labs that expose staff and students to hazardous chemical substances. We've got our cleaners, sometimes they mix, these chemicals trying to make cleaning easy. That is on its own, it is a hazardous environment. But when you think of cleaners, you think, it's not really much, but they are exposed. So there is a research gap. There's limited occupational health and safety management standard research on academic institutions, especially in developing countries. Developing countries because we're building more universities. In industry, when you go to Google, you'll see occupational health and safety management system for construction, for steel environment, but when it comes to academic environment, it's very limited. So the problem statement is that university, while, universities, the core business is education, to provide teaching and learning. That is the core function. But like industries, they still pose a health and safety risk due to the design and operations. So the risk, as I've mentioned, ranges from physical hazards, slippery floors. How many incidents we're experiencing at universities when it comes to slippery floors? Exposure to hazardous chemical substances, as I've mentioned, and also the mental health issues, which is a bit ignored in a way. No one is really focusing on it, but it's becoming huge at universities. As I've mentioned, South African universities' research is very limited. There was one study that was done a long time ago in 2013, which is really outdated, and it focused more on safety and security, not occupational health and safety. So the aim of the study was to assess the efficiency of occupational health and safety management system in South African universities, because we believe that the system is there, but how efficient the system is. The study area, we've got 26 universities, public universities, that are governed by Higher Education Act. under DHET. So within the 26 public universities, we've got 11 traditional universities, 9 comprehensive universities, 6 University of Technology. And out of those universities, we're looking at more than 57,000 academic staff, if not more now, and over 1.2 million students. That was in 2019. Probably now, with a high rate, students are passing matrics, so it might be more. So there's a large staff-student ratio which highlights potential safety and management gaps. Now, this study focuses on one of the 6 universities of technology. I'm not going to mention which university was it, but it's one of the 6. So the overview of a university setting, occupational health and safety risk, as mentioned, I'm not going to repeat that. The global evidence has proven that occupational health and safety practices are below standards in a university setup. There's regulation pressure to improve learning, teaching, and working environment, because even though it's a teaching and learning, it's still a working environment, it's still an industry which requires us to comply with the requirements of occupational health and safety. And also, it highlights parallels with South African challenges. So the global challenge also reflects in South African challenges as well. In South African context, as you know, we are guided by Occupational Health and Safety Act, which mandates safe workplaces and leading accountability as per Section 8 and 16. Vice Chancellors or rectors carry an ultimate responsibility to health and safety, because they are CEOs of the industry. So there's limited research on university, and the study is outdated. When it comes to leadership and standards, it has proven that effective leadership can actually have, effective leadership can actually have the number of accidents that the universities or industries are experiencing. Occupational health and safety management system is not mandatory. It's voluntary in South Africa, but still, if we can implement the ISO or the management system, we can improve our working environment. So the takeaway is that if we can target leadership when it comes to compliance, we will be able to win the battle of non-compliance in our universities, meaning it starts from top to bottom, not bottom up. So, assessing of the study, we started by a bit of literature review where we did a desktop scan on occupational health and safety policy statements published in our university's websites. It has been proven that occupational health and safety policy defines the fundamental principle and guidelines governing the organization's approach to occupational health and safety. Meaning, if we have a policy, at least we're starting somewhere to make sure that we comply. So this study conducted a desktop occupational health and safety policies published by certain universities, And unfortunately, only 11 South African public universities had a policy available online. You can go and check on your website if you do have a SHE policy or occupational health and safety policy published. Currently, or at that time when we were doing the study, there were only 11 universities out of 26 universities that had a SHE policy published on the website. They might have it somewhere, but the ones that were published on website, there were about 11. So we did a study on it, and the policy, as we all know, it's not mandatory that you should have a SHE policy. It's not mandatory unless you are guided by the chief inspector. There are certain industries which are required to have a policy in place. Those are, I think, the steel environment. They must, it's a matter of must that you must have a SHE policy in place. But when it comes to other industries, it's not mandatory. However, even though it's not mandatory, Section 7 of the Act says companies should have. It's not forcing you, only when you are guided by the chief inspector. But then it is a good practice that we have a SHE policy in place. SHE policy tells you what to do. So if you don't have a SHE policy, there's no direction. So it is important that universities adopt a health and safety policy, because it plays a very important role in fulfilling this obligation of ensuring a health and safety in a workplace. So colleagues, if your university doesn't have a SHE policy, it is advisable, it's not mandatory, but it is advisable that you must have a SHE policy. Yeah? So we looked at those SHE policies from different universities just to check if what is it that is in the SHE policy. Okay. And we used the PDCA cycle or approach to assess these policies. Why? Because it provides a standardized, internationally recognized framework for evaluating a management system. As you know, that PDCA stands for planning, do, check, act. Okay. So we didn't want to look at the policy as on its own. We had to compare it with something. So we used the plan, do, check, act cycle for each university policy. And we found that most policies, if you do have a policy, most policies do comply with the planning part. Yesterday, we've talked a lot about hazard identification and risk assessment. Most universities do comply with that. They on their policies or on their policy statement, they speak about hazard identification and risk assessment. When it comes to the do part, most universities indicated that they've got operational controls in place. So there's training, they've appointed, they ensured training, they've appointed, those who serve in the SHE committees, those who serve in the SHE rep, and there's a safe system and compliance on the policy itself, right? Moving to the check, monitoring and evaluation, universities committed that on the policy, they've committed that they do monitoring and evaluation through incident reporting, through inspections, through SHE committees. Lastly, on the acting part that speaks about continual improvement, most universities have committed on the policy that they will ensure that there's continual improvement, there's policy reviews, there's sustainability when it comes to goals and safety culture. So those were the commitments that were on the SHE policy statement. But then when we went deep into the study to check if what is in the policy is being practiced, we found that there were gaps here and there. So the methodology that we used, research design was a qualitative research design, which was chosen. It explored participant experience, behaviors, and context. In terms of data sources, we used interviews, observations, and documentation. I'll go deeper into that later. With regards to research philosophy, it was an interpretivism. It was applied. It focused on subjective experiences, meanings, and perceptions. So it was based on the perception of those who were participating. And it aligns with all the data sources, the interviews, observations, and document analysis. When it comes to research approach, it was inductive reasoning, meaning from data to themes and insight. It was a suitable, it was suitable for under-researched university when it comes to occupational health and safety management system context. The sampling frame, it was in-depth interviews constructed from active SHE committee members. So when we selected those who participated, we went to SHE committee members because we had a feeling that they know better. You know, they will give us more insight. And with regards to observations, we did, it included evacuation drills. So we observed an evacuation drill which was unannounced. So you'll see what the results. And we looked at, the third one was document review, where we looked at all occupational health and safety records kept for the past 3 years. Sampling size, we used a formula that is normally used by researchers. We included about 132 participants when it came to interviews. And all those participants came from the active committees, SHE committees, that were active at that time. Sampling technique, we use purposive sampling. We selected those directly involved in occupational health and safety management system, as I've mentioned, that those who are in the SHE committee, and it gave us a rich, detailed context in terms of what we needed to find out. Data collection, it was through interviews, as I've mentioned. It was a semi-structured, open-ended, and very confidential. We found that some people didn't want to participate, as if they are now, telling, or they'll be in the bad books of the university if they tell the truth. So we assured them that this is very confidential. Observations, as I've mentioned, was on emergency drills, and documents were incident reports. We looked at incident reports, the audits, the policies or procedures, and also the training records. Now, let's go to the interviews that were conducted. As I've mentioned, it was in-depth interviews. We used a questionnaire designed around the PDCA cycle. The questionnaire was given to about 132 participants, and we ensured that it's confidential. And also we ensured consistency when it comes to that. Interviews were lasted about 40 to 45 to 60 minutes, long interviews, because we allowed people to relax and to tell us exactly what are their views when it comes to occupational health and safety. The questionnaire covered the policy and commitment, roles and responsibilities, hazard identification, implementation, monitoring, and management review. And it enabled participants to share detailed perceptions and experience in terms of the effectiveness of the system. The results of the interviews. So the first question spoke about the importance of occupational health and safety. Here we wanted to know if are they aware that we are guided by occupational health and safety. 97% mentioned that they are aware. Just a small 3% gap suggested that they're not aware of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. It worries us because if you serve in the SHE committee, you are expected to know that you are guided by the Occupational Health and Safety Act. And when you serve in a SHE committee, you are appointed in writing. So it gave some question to say, how can you not know that we are guided by the Occupational Health and Safety Act, whereas you are serving in the SHE structure? So there was a high need for awareness. You know, we tend to appoint people to serve in certain forums, especially the Occupational Health and Safety Forum, without giving them sort of background. Why are we here? Why do we need to be here? So, but at least there was just 3%. The second question was around the SHE policy. Yes, there was a SHE policy. It's on the website, and we asked about the importance of the SHE policy. Secondly, is it communicated and enforced? When you put your policy on the website, it's part of awareness, but do people know about it? So everyone, fortunately, knows the importance of the SHE policy. They know the importance of the SHE policy because they take it as other policies. You know, university does not have one policy. There's so many policies. There's a leave policy. There's this and that. So when we spoke about SHE policy, they said, yes, it is important. But then when we asked about, is it well communicated? 95% indicated that the policy is not well communicated. Some of them, they don't even know where the policy is. Where can they retrieve the policy? And 5% disclose that they don't even know, they've never seen it, but they still serve in the SHE committee. So that was a bit of an issue, and it shows that we're lacking awareness as per Section 7 of the Act. The third question that was done on the interview was adherence with the requirements of the Section 8 and 14. Why Section 8 and 14 of the Act is because Section 8 speaks to duties of the employer, Section 14 speaks to duties of the employees. Those are basics. We just needed to know do they understand these sections? Does the university adhere to the requirements of those sections? And 75% reported that there is compliance. They gave few examples of indicating that there is compliance, one of which was that during COVID-19, the university was very strict, and most of them made reference to COVID-19. I think that's when they realized that the importance of health and safety. Unfortunately, 25% cite gaps, mentioning a couple of barriers like inconsistent in reporting, there's communication gaps, but most of which was maintenance issues. I think most universities are struggling with maintenance of infrastructure. Another question was around challenges and barriers in adhering to this section. 40%, as I've mentioned, they mentioned that there's issues with a lack of infrastructure and maintenance. 30%, they just said there's poor communication of hazards and risks. Section 8 says an employer must identify hazards. But now, on the ground, it shows, and the policy stated that hazards are being identified, they are being communicated, but now on the ground, we realize that there's poor communication in terms of the hazards and risks. 20% mention systematic delays, such as procurement. You find that there is a hazard that needs to be addressed, but because of procurement processes. I think it cut across most universities. And 10% complained about lack of training, such as on-the-job training and lack of SOPs. You'd find that even when there's an incident, one of the recommendations would be, I've seen on the report, one of the recommendations was to develop an SOP. That SOP was never developed. So there is a problem. When there's an incident, the SHE office or Occupational Health and Safety office they do their investigations, but when it comes to recommendations, there's zero implementation. One of which is, another issue was that delays in procurement processes. I think when it comes to procurement processes, when it comes to health and safety must take priority, but it's not like that. Another question was about the method used to identify hazards. So it was all about how hazards are spotted, and the answer was that most participant reported that hazards are spotted through occupational health and safety rep inspections. So they rely on occupational health and safety reps to identify these hazards. And 30% mentioned that they are through walkabouts. When students or staff are doing walkabouts around the campus, that's when they identify hazards, but only 30%. Same question was asked on the frequency. Another question was asked on the frequency of hazard identification and risk assessment. Mostly indicated that they are done weekly or monthly. Some said, most of them said these hazards are identified monthly, surely by SHE reps. There are 8% that said they are done continuously, and there's 22% that they are done under other methods. But what is worrying here, colleagues, is that it seems like this identification of hazards is done by SHE reps alone. And when you look at the Act Section 8 puts this responsibility to the employer, saying the employer, you must identify hazards and inform those who are exposed about the hazard. So now, it is very important that top management, I remember one of the companies that I used to work, every month top management had to report on the hazards that they've identified. So it was the responsibility of top management to identify these hazards and inform workers on what hazards they are exposed to and the risks attached to those hazards. So in this case, at the university level, we only rely on occupational health and safety reps that are appointed, which it's not ideal in a working environment. The implementation of occupational health and safety management system key components like your training, your SHE policy, and all of that. 63% confirm that, most of the components are being covered. 20% say there are gaps. They are covered, but there's gaps. And 13% didn't know what we are talking about when we talk about occupational health and safety management system components. But then when we spoke about the resources, what resources do the university provide in order to implement occupational health and safety management system? 65% indicated that there's adequate resources. So when we conducted the study, there was this mixed feelings. You know, some are saying yes, some are saying no. And when you look at the 65% that speaks about resources being provided, whereas there is limited compliance, you ask yourself, do they really know what they're talking about? 35% mentioned that inadequate resources, and they were citing that there's training gaps, there's delays in fixing issues. Some spoke about there's no provision of COCs. Most of our our campuses don't have of our universities don't have COCs in place. Fire compliance it's not up to standard. So these were the issues that they mentioned to say there are no resources. The last question that was asked on interviews was the challenges in the implementation of occupational health and safety management system. 92% said there are lots of barriers when it comes to occupational health and safety management system implementation, one of which is budget constraints. How many times would you go to a university or to management and ask for a budget to implement, a health and safety compliance, and they'll tell you that there's no budget? And again, there's a turnaround procurement issue. You report, and it must go through, certain levels to a point where they say they don't have money. Or by the time they fix it, it has created more risks and more incidents for those who are exposed. 8% said there are no challenges. I don't believe that there are no challenges. There are challenges, but this was the study that we have compiled. Another question was around indicating for evaluation and monitoring of occupational health and safety management system. Remember, on the SHE policy or occupational health and safety policy, the university indicated that there is monitoring. But when we go to the ground, there was an indication that the evaluation and monitoring, 30% indicated that training of occupational health and safety representatives is going well, so they monitor the compliance through that. 40% it showed compliance with OHS protocols, saying the university does comply, and then 30% said incident data analysis indicates that there is compliance, meaning they had a huge number of incidents, but because the university complies, there is a reduction in those in incidents. We asked about the perception of occupational health and safety performance improvement over the 5 years. We gave them 5 to say from now on, 5 years back, do they see improvement in occupational health and safety performance? 50% said yes, there is significant improvement. 40% said insufficient efforts. So there's not much improvement, and 10% said they are observing changes, or some of them said they are not sure. So, colleagues, it showed that somehow, somewhere, there is a policy, but what is in the policy, it's not being implemented on the ground. With regards to evacuation drills, remember those evacuation drills are done, we're supposed to do them, or the university is supposed to do them. We observed an unannounced evacuation drill just to check the roles, the attitude, and the behaviors of those who are involved. So that role was carried by occupational health and safety reps, fire marshals, HODs of that section, fire safety officers of that section, and the security staff members that guided the evacuation. And the attitude that we saw on that day is that mostly the participants were positive and compliant, even though some were a bit hesitant, confused, and the behaviors that some were rushing, there was delays and panicking, and but when we asked about, these behaviors but the first question was, is this the very first evacuation drill? And it was confirmed that it was actually the second evacuation drill in 2 years. We're supposed to have evacuation drills every 6 months, I think. But that one, when I checked around, it was the second in 2 years. So it was clear that there was a need for clear communication. It was clear that they needed to have more fire drills so that we make sure that people don't panic. There's no rushing, there's no delays, and all of that. Moving to a document review, I'm finishing. Moving to document, remember we did interviews, we did fire drills. The third one was document review. We looked at the policy is there, it was endorsed by the CEO of the university, which is the VC, but it was not displayed. So we understand why people were not sure of the policy. Procedures are there, like your incident reporting procedure, your hazard identification procedure was there. Training procedure was there, emergency evacuation procedure was there when it comes to drills, but some of the procedures were still not finalized. So there is, a bit of improvement. When it comes to registers, there were registers, lots of registers that were in place. However, they were not reviewed. They were outdated. So there was a bit of inconsistency in there. With regards to incident reports, we looked at the incident reports from 2021 to 2023. There was lack of near misses that were reported. I think most universities struggle with reporting of near misses. First aid injuries were also not reported. But when you look at the records of procuring the first aid contents, it's huge. But when it comes to reporting of those first aid injuries, it's down. You ask yourself, where does the content of the first aid box go to? So there's no accountability. Doctor cases where somebody is not booked off but is seen by a medical doctor, they were significantly high, and also disabling injuries. My view to this was that they were high because somebody needs to pay the doctor, somebody needs to pay the hospital. So it must go through right channels, the reporting. Hence, the reporting was high. When it comes to occupational health and safety reps, attendance in terms of training, it showed that in the 3 years that we looked at, there was a decline in occupational health and safety rep training. So people did not volunteer. People don't want to be she-reps. Why? And the answer that I got is that we don't get paid. And apparently it's a full-time job, and we don't get paid. So there was a decline on year to year. You'll always see decline on training. First aid, there was a sharp rise in first aid, and in our view was that it's because we also benefit. When you do first aid, you take that skill home, and you've got that skill forever and ever. So hence there was a rise in first aid training. With fire marshals, it showed that there are people that are trained. However, there was a year that no one was trained. When I asked why, they said budget. I mean, having a fire marshal in a working environment is very important. Our universities are prone to fire. We've got students stay in res, there must be a fire marshal appointed or trained. Unfortunately, because of budget constraints, they could not be trained. Legal liability training. HODs are not interested in attending legal liability training at that particular university. I'm not sure at your universities, but apparently they procure training. When it comes to training day, no one shows up from management because legal liability is for management. The development of Occupational Health and Safety Committee, it had showed that it has gone up because of the awareness and the requirement. In 2021, there were only 4 committees at that particular universities. You can imagine, university. 2022, then the committees went up. 2023, there were 8 SHE committees. And the target for that was that they must have at least 12 SHE committees, looking at the faculties and the support units. So in conclusion, colleagues, there is a bit of progress. Policy awareness, there are committees, you can see that there's growing, and emergency readiness is on point. However, there are gaps when it comes to communication, there are gaps when it comes to resources. Maintenance became a huge thing. Training also, some don't want to be trained, don't want to participate because they don't get paid for it. PDCA is in place, but it's not even, and it's also under reviewed. So priorities that were that they needed to look at was that they need integration, they need resources, and they need to continuously monitor occupational health and safety management system. There is a system in place, but it's not monitored. Top management is not really, it's relying on the SHE reps, relying on occupational health and safety department. But when it comes to 16.2's appointees, they've been appointed. Some of them, they don't even attend their own occupational health and safety committee meetings. So this was my our study, colleagues. You can look at it. There's 2 articles that we have published. Look at those articles, study them, read, and improve your own working environment. And thank you, colleagues. That was it.
In the interest of time,
there's no question.
ESCO member, please do the honor. Can we clap hands for him? More staff worked very well. Look at the image.
Thank you.
Nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Can we appreciate you once more? Mr. Root, when you were giving wines, did you reserve one for me? But we'll chat about it later. I just want to give 2 wines away. And I'm going to ask a simple question. Can I just see those who want to answer by show of hands before the question? You got it? You're going to share that wine with me? Another hand? Who wants wine? Okay, number 1. I have 2 wines. The other hand? Okay, okay, there it is. Then my question to you, let me start there. My question to you, there was a presenter by the name of Mr. Ruud van der Waal from Tshwane University of Technology. He served as Shecasa president between which year and which year? Don't read the program? He was served as a Shecasa president. Which year? The wine pass? Thank you. I'm changing the question. Then, can I see those who were here last night? Okay, all of you, you're here. My last question, the other ones I will do them later, we are pressed for time. I don't want to be a rude guy to rush the speakers. I'm being a bad guy. So, my last question to you, I think you raised the hand. Put the program down. Who did the opening and welcome and, on the name of VP of UNISA yesterday?
You. Oh, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, that calls us to go for break. I'm giving you 10 minutes. The food is ready. Just grab something, come sit down, then we'll continue. No, it's just a tea, a small tea. Oh, the tea is cancelled. I'm giving you only 5 minutes to stretch your body. Then we come back. Then we proceed. Strictly 5 minutes.